I'm having a hard time getting both of those.
Okay, Angela's off the call. Try it again, Blair.
Okay, can you hear me now? I didn't know how much time I was going to have to talk here, so I'm going to read what I had prepared.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that.
Blair, are you still on the call as well as Angela? It's still showing both of you on the call.
I can't off the screen. I don't know. I'm on a laptop, and there shouldn't be anything else going. Is my cell going?
If I may, I'm seeing that Blair's connected through video, but I also have Angela still showing up. And if I mute Angela, then Blair is muted. So there's got to be something, two devices or two things going on at the same time there, I think.
Can I disconnect and reconnect?
I think that's the best approach.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Or can you disconnect me, Cindy, and I can phone back in?
I don't think I can. I think you'll have to leave the meeting and go back in.
Okay, sorry about this. I'll do that right away, okay?
Okay.
Thanks very much.
We'll go
Appreciate
on
it.
and come back to you.
Okay. Thanks for your help.
Okay. We have Bettina.
Sorry, that's
Hello,
for the
yes.
next public meeting, I think.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah,
It says Bettina Henkelman.
but that is, I think she's joined the meeting for the Te Havelock Trail. She can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. How about
That's
Stephanie
right.
Nugent?
That's the same. She's, I believe, logging in for the second one.
Okay. And we have Spencer Stinson, which is probably Mary or Glenn.
Yeah, I'm joining in addition to them. I expect they're on maybe one of the call-in users.
Okay. So call user number 3. Okay, Blair is back. Let's try it again, Blair.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I can't see anything on the screen, but I can't see you, but I'm going to read what I have. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. Again, sorry for all that problem. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, I'm just going to read what I had because this is my first time at a council meeting. So I'm just going to read because I wanted to make it as quick as possible and get out what I wanted to get out, sort of thing. So,
Okay.
so I just want to start off. Thank you, council, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members and staff for the opportunity to provide my input to council on this matter. I have provided some input with the limited time I have had since receiving a notice of this meeting in the mail on July 30th. I would like to address the information provided in the agenda package that came out on Friday, August 7th, and the subsequent update sent out yesterday afternoon. I did not know there had been an earlier meeting on May 24th, 2020, in which the council approved in principle the road allowance closure based on the information presented to staff in report 85/2020. Cindy Deachman had assured me on February 2019 that if they do proceed with the bylaw to close the road, I would be given notice and will have the opportunity to submit my comments or speak at a public meeting. As Cindy indicated, she would certainly keep me apprised of that process should it be commenced. That was the last I'd heard from Cindy on the subject until I received the notice in the mail on the 30th. Because I was notified that the road proposal was on the agenda, because I was not notified that the road proposal was on the agenda on May 24th council meeting, I could not provide input, even though this issue is of great concern to me. Sorry, I'm going over the screen here. The last I'd heard from the Stinsons on this subject was that they had no intention of seeking approval of closing the road in the foreseeable future. I was also not informed of the previous council meeting regarding the Old Tryon Road, and I had no opportunity to provide input on the renaming of the Old Tryon Road, even though this road runs along my property for almost a mile. I spent a lot of time speaking and talking with the Stinchcombs and visiting the area before purchasing the property from them. There is no doubt in my mind that one of the selling features of the property that was highlighted by the Stinchcombs at that time was the access to the Old Tryon Road. I'd like to move on now to the report itself. The report to council indicates the reason staff are recommending a formal closure bylaw is, and this is the words from the package. While historically there is no doubt the lane has been used as an open, unmaintained road by the public, council actions since 2006 have consistently indicated it did not want to continue treating it as an open road. It is for this reason we now recommend a formal closure bylaw to complete the process and intent in the 2006 bylaw. I've not been able to find any documents regarding council action since 2006 that consistently indicate it did not want to continue treating it as an open road. In 2006, the bylaw was 2006-208 was passed, which allowed the public to continue to use the Old Tryon Road as an unmaintained public road and continues to do so today. There's nothing in the 2006 bylaw or meeting minutes indicating an intent to close the road. I'm not aware of any council actions taken since 2006, besides the meeting of May 24th of this year and this evening's meeting to deny the public of the use of Williams Lane. The other council action that I am aware of since 2006 regarding the Old Tryon Road was the renaming bylaw request submitted by the Stinsons. I am confused as to why the road was permitted to be renamed, since section 1.2 of this bylaw to rename the old road states that roads having less than 4 civic numbers will not be renamed. Yet the Old Tryon Road was renamed and it has less than 4 civic numbers. If there were other actions taken by council since 2006 towards closing the Old Tryon Road, I'm not aware of them, and there seems to be no public record of these actions. In fact, the bylaw does the opposite. The bylaw from 2006 ensured the public and adjacent landowners enjoyed the use of the Old Tryon Road in the future. With respect to the options and recommendations in the agenda package, option 1 is not acceptable for me. The Stinsons have already told me that they would not give me legal access to the Old Tryon Road in writing. Option 1 would not guarantee that I could continue to use Williams Lane. Excuse me. However, I would be okay with option 2, which states, do not pass the bylaw to close the road. This will perpetuate the uncertain status of the lane as being an open road. Williams Lane is an open road. It is an unmaintained township road that has not been closed by the township. There is no uncertain status being perpetuated here. The status in that respect is clear and not uncertain. What is still uncertain is the ownership of the road. In my opinion, that has not been determined conclusively. Option 2 goes on to say, this is not recommended given all the maintenance and control was given over to the Stinsons, who have incurred significant expense and liability in 2006. There was no maintenance or control given over to the Stinsons because there was no maintenance being done by the township, hence the name in the bylaw, the unmaintained township road. And as far as control of the road, it has always been a public road and not controlled by the Stinsons. The final part of option 2 was this will prevent the Stinsons from being able to clear their title and obtain insurance and may continue to expose the municipality to undue liability. The fact is the Stinsons asked for this responsibility from the township and they got their wish with bylaw 2006 and 2008. The bylaw clearly states what the criteria were since to follow. I'm not going to go through all those. There was, I believe, eight criteria. I'm still trying to determine what criteria the Stinsons have met regarding this bylaw. Excuse me. I'd like to address, and I think you saw some of the pictures. I'd included some pictures about, I'll just speak to 2 of those items in the bylaw just very quickly. Item 3 says there is no encroachment or disturbance of abutting properties now or in the future. In my submission for the agenda package that the Stinsons have been trespassing on my property since I bought the property in 2006, and they continue to do so. And I've provided the pitch. That's what part of the pictures are for, is for the council to see. And also item 6 of the bylaw in 2006, that any construction on this unmaintained road will not adversely affect any wetlands or environment. You can see from the photos that they basically wiped out two ecosystems, those ponds on my property. So those have been completely removed. Finally, I'd like to address the comments from the Stinsons that were added to the agenda package yesterday afternoon. I was surprised to see this by the Stinsons, as I was told the agenda package had to be submitted by Friday morning. There are a number of statements in the Stinson submission that are inaccurate, incomplete, or simply false, but I will not address these here. Perhaps the most notable comments are admission that they trespassed on my land and used heavy equipment to remove beaver dams that destroyed 2 large beaver ponds on my property, thereby destroying these precious wetland environments, removing habitat for a great many insects, reptiles, amphibians, and birds. In conclusion, I'd urge council to decide not to pass this bylaw, which would close the road and deny access to the public and landowners with property fronting on the road who have enjoyed this access for many decades. I believe I have presented a solid argument, which I have also supported with details in my submission and comments here today related to the agenda package. I do not believe the council agenda has presented a strong argument to support the closing of the road. In fact, as I mentioned, I do not believe this action has been indicated by council actions since 2006. Very much for finally having I thank you very much for finally having the opportunity to voice my concerns and provide my input on this matter, which is very important to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Blair. Okay. Do we have anyone else who wishes to speak?
Mary Stinson.
Okay, Mary, go ahead.
I apologize, I'm late to the meeting, so I have only heard some of Blair's response because I thought I was going to get a phone call when the agenda item came up. So I apologize for that. So I will start though, okay? But I haven't heard what's really been happening, okay? Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I essentially, because I don't know, because it was added late, know if councillors had an opportunity to read my report, because it's a response to Larry, Deborah, and Blair's submission. So I really couldn't have gotten it in before that. So this is my statement, okay? Along with Cindy's report, you have a story of Williams Lane, formerly Old Tryon Road. From Larry,
Mary, let me just stop you. The letter was in our packages, and I think everyone did have an opportunity to read Mary's letter. Is that true, council? Yes, I'm seeing nods. So we did read your letter.
There was not.
Okay.
Muted.
I don't know. I guess if I could make a closing statement then.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Now that Williams Lane is essentially built, it's now in our names, and we've assumed all construction costs. The road was originally little more than a wagon trail. We doubt there were even cars on it. It was grass and bedrock when we started, just a narrow trail through the woods. Now that it's built in our names and we've assumed all construction costs, it just makes sense to take the next step, especially since Township requires us to be liable and we need clear ownership to do that. The intention of others to access William Lane more regularly has clearly contributed to our shift in thinking. We need and deserve to be in control regarding any future development in order to ensure it's done safely and fairly. We actually think the road closure will help us forge better working relationships going forward. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Mayor, it's Craig helping me here, speaking for Mary Perth.
Yes, go ahead.
Asked that I provide a little bit of legal background on the.
Yes, you're breaking up.
Okay, I apologize. Perhaps I can try to call in then. Is that suit better?
Well, it's a little better right now. Let's keep going.
Okay. Glenn asked that I provide some legal context to the decision that's before council this evening. And I suspect Mary didn't realize perhaps that I hadn't had a chance to speak when she got onto the line. So just as you can see from the submissions that were made, there's a lot of history in the Stinsons, the Sheridans, and Wood. I don't think that can be denied. But there are also things that are indisputable here. When we look at the facts are that this is a public road. I don't think that's in dispute. The law is very clear on that a road is a road until that road is closed. That's one thing that I believe is indisputable. The other is the legal ownership of the road, title to the road. From the evidence that I've looked at and the title searching that I've done, I don't believe there's any doubt that the ownership of the road or the title to the road is owned by Glenn and Mary Stinson. If there's evidence to suggest otherwise, I have not seen that. The second point that I wish to make is that the Municipal Act 35 makes it very clear that a municipality can pass a bylaw removing or restricting the right of passage over a public highway. So that's a decision that is within the power of council. And the factors that council are asked to look at when considering that decision are whether or not it deprives an adjacent property owner or anyone of access to their land. Okay. The fact of the matter is that both of the properties, the Sheridan property and the Woods Penton property, were created on the basis that those properties had frontage on the Tryon Road, and that their primary access over Williams Lane or what is the Tryon Road. So by closing this road, there is no denial of any right to either of the property owners that have made submissions here today. Okay. Mr. Woods has argued that by closing the road, he's being denied the right to future develop or develop his property in the future. Well, again, the fact of the matter is that the lot that Mr. Woods purchased was purchased on the basis that it had frontage on Tryon Road and had access over Leggett Lane. Not that a new road could be created from Williams Lane to his property. And so on that basis, it's just that there's no obligation in my mind for council to consider the future use of Mr. Woods' property or Mr. Sheridan's property. I think Mary Stinson summarized it nicely in saying, you know, I feel that they're willing to cooperate with Mr. Sheridan and Mr. Woods and Ms. Penton, but failing to close this road at the end of the day means a significant amount of liability being taken on by the township. The Stinsons will not be able to obtain insurance for this road as considered an open road or a public highway. And so with that in mind, if the Stinsons don't have insurance and it continues to be an open road, then it's the township that's going to be on the hook if there's an issue. And so it does create a significant amount. The township has no interest in maintaining or improving that road. So other than that, those are the submissions that I have to council, Madam Mayor, and certainly open to rebuttal on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Call in user 7. Would you like to speak? Okay, does anyone else have anything else to say? I think one of the...
Hi, can you hear me? Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Yep. Okay, I've got Larry and Blair, so...
Go ahead, Blair.
Okay. Well, I just want to... The gentleman that was just speaking there for the Stinsons, That's right. I do have access from the Tryon Road. That access might go in for 150 meters. The majority of the access to my property is from the old Tryon Road, from Williams Lane. That's, as I've mentioned, it's about a mile of frontage down Williams Lane that gives me access to my property. It gives me access to areas of my property that cannot be reached from the Tryon Road. It's my property is 256 acres, just a little bit over. And I use the road for all sorts of, and have been using the road since I've purchased the property. And if I don't have access, I cannot get back into certain areas on my property where, I have to manage the beaver population, whatnot. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons up, and so I don't agree with that statement that I'm not denied access to my property. I believe I am. And the other point. I disagree with the fact that, or the statement that the Stinsons are willing to work with me. I've had a conversation with the Stinsons. I made the point that as long as I don't lose my access to the road, that's okay. And I wanted that in writing in a legal document, and they were not prepared to give that to me. And that's why I've said option one is not an option for me. It's already been discussed, and it's not going to be forthcoming from the Stinson. So, and the third, question about that. When I saw the Stinson submission, have they ever had insurance for the road? I'm just curious about that because this is the first time I've ever, that was in 2006, they were supposed to have insurance. And then when I saw the submission, but I didn't quite understand it. Like, have they never had insurance, or is it just now that they've, built the road, finished their house, and now they're saying they can't get insurance? Could we get clarification on that?
I can clarify that. That's in our submission that we tried, and we notified Township immediately that we could not.
So you've never had insurance since the beginning of that?
We've told the Township that it's their liability, and that was how it was left. And that's, I think, why it's a good idea to close the road now. But anyway, no, we alerted Township immediately.
So Township's been aware since 2006 that they've been liable for the road?
Well, we can't be liable for something we don't own.
No, I'm saying council. If you're telling me that you have not had insurance and you advise council of that, council's been aware that you have not had insurance on that road.
Council has insurance on all of their roads. That road in particular would have been a very low maintenance or no maintenance road, which is one of the reasons that the municipality would like to get rid of a road like this, because we're not going to maintain it. So I think what we need to take a look at is there a way that all of the parties can come together in some sort of an agreement, whether it's a right-of-way, license agreement, to make this road accessible when required to the people to get to their properties, or maybe that's not in the cards. But certainly as the mayor, and I think as council, we would like to see neighbors getting along and coming to some agreements that would work for everyone. But the reality is we do not want this road, and we do not want the responsibility of it, which is why we said to the Stinsons way back, you bring it up to standard and fix it, and it's your road.
Has that been done? Has the road, I was with my questions. I'd asked city staff has the road, I was even aware the road was completed. Has it been inspected and determined that it has been made standard?
We're not inspecting it because it's not up to a municipal standard. Basically, the Stinsons have built the road for access to their property. The only issue would be for us to be able to get a fire truck in if there was a need for fire or ambulance.
And could I speak to that for 1 second?
Sure, Mary, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we were in regular contact with the road supervisor at the time, and he looked at it and deemed it to be suitable for a driveway for one household, right? It has turnouts as well as a single lane, and we were in contact with the township, and that as we were directed to do, and that's the road supervisor was on it at the time. I mean, that's years and years ago now.
But the requirement of the bylaw 2008 was that the road is built to a standard. I don't have it in front of me right now, but what that standard? And
Yes, it's a private road standard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which Mary is saying that the roads manager was out and they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, we did what we were asked to do.
It was built to that standard. Okay. And what other criteria were met on there? Because I was trying to figure out which ones were met.
Okay, that's more of a staff issue than it is a council issue.
Okay.
What I want to do now is I want to suggest that if people feel they need some more time to straighten this out, that we look at deferring it to see if you can come to some kind of arrangements. Council would much rather that you work out something than us to impose something on everyone. Mary, do you think that's a possibility?
We've indicated a willingness. I'm not sure why Blair says we've denied. We've indicated a willingness to try and work something out.
Mary,
Mary,
you made a lot of statements. So that's another one that's not true. You called me up and asked me, and I told you if you're willing to give me that in writing in a legal document, I'd be okay with it. And you said no because you didn't want to tie the hands of your children in the future. So that's not true.
I actually don't recall saying that to you. We had a long discussion, but anyway, I guess that's in the past, and we have indicated that we are interested in trying to work something out, and perhaps our lawyer could speak to that.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, it's Craig. It's Craig back
Yes.
on the line here. Hopefully,
Go ahead,
you can hear me
Craig.
okay. Might I suggest, Madam Mayor, that we have a period of time that the parties have to get together to try to work out a deal, so a fixed period of time, so that the matter can be dealt with. Mr. and Mrs. Stinson have indicated that they would like for me to act on their behalf in respect of those negotiations. I would be prepared to time Mr. Sheridan and Mr. Woods and Ms. Penton to sit down and to see if a satisfactory agreement can be reached.
Your Worship, it's Tom here. Could I at this point, it sounds like there is some wiggle room here. Could I put a motion on the floor to defer this? Because it sounds like there is possibility some of the parties could all come to some agreement and we could look at this at a future date. I'd like to put that motion on the floor.
Do I have a seconder?
I will second that.
Madam Mayor, I'll second it.
Victor's already done that, seconded by Victor.
And can we perhaps set a date so that this doesn't drag on?
Okay, what if we have 2 meetings in September? What if we look at the second meeting in September? Does that give you enough time, Mr. Halpany?
Yeah, I will make sure that it does, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so that would be September, let's see, 22nd. So we would need it the Thursday before. So let's say mid-September. Okay, I'm going to call the vote on the motion to defer. Is there anyone voting no to the deferral? Motion's carried. Okay, so I would like to send the parties to a neighborly get together and see what you can work out. I think in the back of your minds, you need to keep in mind that the municipality does not want this road. So I'm sure you can come up with some sort of an agreement. Okay. The motion to, we'll have to defeat the motion that we pass a bylaw later in the meeting. That's the one moved by Alwyn and seconded by Victor. The council received input from the public meeting and the accompanying report prepared by the deputy clerk and the description of the right of way. People voting against this motion.
I vote against it.
Yes. Can I see hands?
Against.
Cindy?
Against.
Okay, motion defeated. All right, so very good. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. We are getting through this. All right. We have an easement for Tay Havelock Trail. I have a motion moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Elwin Burke. That council receive input from the public meeting and the accompanying report prepared by the deputy clerk. That council approve the recommendation to grant an easement over the existing access in favor of Part 1, 13R 15998, and that a bylaw be passed later in the meeting. Discussion? Any questions or comments?
No.
Anyone voting no? Motion's carried.
Madam Mayor, can we
sorry.
hear from the public? I think there's some people who wish to speak, though.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So, who have we got first?
We have Bettina Henkelman and Stephanie Nugent, I believe, are on the line to listen to this. I'm not sure if there's anyone else.
Bettina?
I'm here to listen or give answers if any or any questions come up.
Okay, excellent.
It's Stephanie here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are, Stephanie. Go ahead.
We're not opposed to the easement to the property. I guess what our concern is how it affects our driveway, which has been there for 48 years, and we've used it. And I guess about 15 years ago, when it was originally purchased by somebody else, they just started using our driveway and going into the property. So if an easement is approved, how does it affect our driveway? Do they continue to use our driveway? Is there another civic number that's put in? Like,
okay.
Unsure. Nobody can answer it.
Yes, Cindy, can you answer that for us?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think to answer the civic question, because the civics are based on distance, I think if there's a civic request there, it would be a situation of adding an A and a B to the existing number. The existing license agreement that we have that was assigned to us from the CPR indicates that the previous owner, or I guess the current owner, because I believe the Henkelmans haven't purchased yet, that they had a license with the CPR to use the existing roadway across the trail to access their property. My understanding is that it's the same driveway as perhaps the adjoining landowner. That's consistent with what I can see on the mapping. So it would involve sort of just regularizing and continuing on that right that the current owners have to use the trail to cross to get to their property. It wouldn't necessarily impact the existing driveway other than there'd be two users of it as opposed to just one. But I don't foresee that would be insurmountable, and there's probably opportunity there since it's a shared driveway for cost savings and whatnot for maintenance.
So Cindy, does that mean that both parties' names should be on this easement?
Well, it is unclear. Well, they'd have to be separate easements regardless, because we have to grant the easement to a specific dominant tenement. So we would be granting two separate easements in any case. It is unclear at this point whether the Nugents already have an easement. It appears that they've got reference to one in their title, but it doesn't seem to be reflected on the trail property itself, which frankly isn't unusual in the conversion issues that we had with going from registry to land title. Sometimes the easements didn't get properly documented. So they may already have an easement for their driveway and it's just not properly noted on their legal description. That's something that they could talk to their lawyer about. So it may not even be necessary to grant them an easement. It may just be an issue of correcting the record to add the easement onto our legal description to show that we're subject to that easement.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mrs. Nugent?
I think it does. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on the motion or comments? If none, is anyone voting no? Motion's carried. Okay, we are at bylaws. By Tom Dewey, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that bylaw 2020-37, being a bylaw to assume Nordic Road as a highway, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 11th day of August 2020. Anyone voting no? Carried. Okay. Moved by Nikki and seconded by Brent, whereas council passed resolution 252-2020 on July the 14th, 2020, authorizing staff to bring to council a bylaw to amend bylaw 2002-125 to include Dalton Lane in the road naming bylaw. And whereas notice of said bylaw was provided to meet the requirements of the notice bylaw, now therefore be it resolved that bylaw 2020-38, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2002-125, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 11th day of August 2020. Any discussion? Anyone voting no? Motion's carried. Moved by Tom Dewey, seconded by Bill McDonald, that bylaw 2020-39, being a bylaw to rescind bylaw 2017-40 and to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 11th day of August 2020. Question? Anyone voting no? Motion's carried. Okay. Moved by Elwin, seconded by Victor, whereas council passed resolution 251-2020 at the July 14th, 2020 meeting, agreeing in principle to grant an easement in favor of Part 1, 13R 15998. Now therefore be it resolved that bylaw 2020-40, being a bylaw to declare land surplus for the purpose of granting a right-of-way over part of the former CPR Frontenac right-of-way, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 11th day of August 2020. Question? Anyone voting no? Motion carried. Okay, the next one we're not going to do, it's the Williams Lane. Okay. Is there any notices of motion? Is there any giving of notices of motion?
None.
Is there any new or other business?
None.
Okay, we will be going into closed session. And the motion moved by Victor and seconded by Brent. The council move into closed session to discuss matters about 1, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, section 239-2E, fire. Discussion? Anyone voting no? Motion's carried. Cindy, give us our instructions.
Okay, so I think everybody has their link to the closed session, so I will open up that meeting. You can log in and then we'll carry on.